Do the people who call us from these edtech companies like Byju's and White Hat Juniors actually SDRs?
No.
At last, Ryan, welcome to the first episode of FootSteps. And I'm glad we finally met after a very long time. Ryan, would you love to just, give a small intro about yourself?
Yeah, I'm Ryan. I love sales. I've been very fortunate to really have a career in sales since college, frankly. Been lucky to work with a lot of great people, great companies, and take a lot of learnings from them, be it direct or indirect, whether it's because I've worked with them or because I've found them somehow on LinkedIn or they've found me. And it's just been lucky to see how many sort of paths have crossed over the years and how everybody has their own take on this, but how everybody's take is not wrong. Everybody's take is right, but for them. And I found that super interesting about sales. So yeah, I've ended up in sales. Luckily, I now run a business called Sama School, where I fundamentally try and help people to break into SaaS, which at times can be like a very well-guarded secret, where some people can feel like, hey, this industry doesn't want me. Hey, this industry is like tough to get into, tough to break into. And for me, sort of being fortunate enough to be selling SaaS my entire career, I've now found that, look, it's actually not the case, right? Anybody can do it. It's just a matter of understanding sort of the nuances behind everything. So we kind of have designed programs and courses to really help people to break in the industry for the first time. Not only just to get past an industry, let's say, that doesn't want them, but to land them in that industry at a level where they can actually start succeeding, hitting quota, making money, and actually build a sustainably long career in that space as well.
Amazing. Like just hearing about the other initiative about Sama really, gives me that, knack of that makes me dabble about in the realm of SaaS, B2B, right? How's the market as per you, right? How does the market really look like for an SDR? And like, if you have to, describe an SDR for a, culture, for a firm and for yourself, how would you describe that for somebody who does not even know about what is an SDR?
An SDR is the way you make money, right? If I have to explain that to a firm, it's the way you make money, right? You cannot expect that everybody out there, no matter what you're selling, is going to be a fit for your product. The SDR is the guy who says, hey, you're meeting with guys who are actually going to be a fit for whatever we're offering today. And these are the guys that we can add the most value to, because it's no good just bringing in one customer and they end up churning, they end up leaving us, they end up not seeing value. The actual customers you really want, if you actually drill down to most businesses, the actual type of people that they really want are going to be long-term customers that can actually really benefit from whatever it is that they've built today, right? So SDRs is like the beginning point of contact. I like to phrase it as that, for a prospect before they become a customer. And if SDR does his job right, then yeah, of course they become a customer.
Got it. So in one way we can say, if marketing opens the doors for sales, the first one to get on the sale is the SDR, right?
Yeah.
Got it. And obviously the follow-up question on the same aspect is, what's SaaS? What is SaaS? And like, why are SDRs considered so important to the realm of B2B SaaS?
When we talk about SaaS, right, of course, everybody knows software as a service, right? But imagine this, right? Let's say you're running a company today and you need to run payroll for 100 different people. Mm-hmm. You can either hire some guy who has an accounting degree to manually sort all of the different payroll challenges that there may exist within an organization, whether it's bonuses for the salespeople, commissions, whatever it may be, right? And the larger an organization gets, the more complex these calculations become. And when you introduce an element of complexity, that's when mistakes can be made. And at large scale company levels, mistakes can be very costly, right? So as a result, SaaS exists as a foolproof way of basically running a potential operation. So for example, if you look at a payroll software, that's SaaS, that's a software as a service, right? So when you look at a payroll software like that, instead of getting that one dude in who's probably very stressed to do commission calculations for different 300 people, instead of that, have a software that actually has the computing power as well as the scalability. Because today you're 300 employees. What if tomorrow you become 3,000 employees? That one guy is going to hate you a lot, right? So the bigger idea here would be get software to do the heavy lifting and perform a viable service for you, right? So that's what is known as software as a service. Now, when we come to what is the SDR's role in SaaS or software as a service, SDR's job is basically to say, look, everybody can identify this is my target market. Everybody's target market looks good on paper, right? We see it in Shark Tank. If we get 1% of this industry, it's going to be $50 billion, right? It's like, yeah, all right, dude. But an SDR is going to say, look, out of this entire ICP or out of this entire target market that you guys want to achieve, not everybody actually needs our service. Not everybody is actually going to benefit from having it in their tech stack. As a result, how are we going to separate the ones who won't buy from the ones who will buy? How are we going to separate the ones who are going to get value from the ones who aren't going to get value? And when we do this separation, that's when you get what is called an SQL, a sales qualified lead. And this is when you're going to actually be able to see a lot more of these initial meetings start to convert into paying customers and hopefully high paying customers at the end of the day as well.
So eventually, just to concise in the most appropriate manner, they're the ones who are the needle shifter for the revenue.
They're the initial needle shifter, right? Now there's going to be account executives as well. There's going to be customer success as well. And each of these cogs performing well makes the machine run smooth. But the second there's an issue with one of the cogs, that's when the needle doesn't move anymore, right? The needle is not just one person moving the needle or one team or department moving the needle. It's the group effort that actually makes that needle move, right? You can have an amazing SDR team and they can be let down by a crummy account executive team. You can have a crummy SDR team who are still able to have great account executives that are able to somehow source value from these deals, right? You could have a terrible customer success team and everybody churns and they don't see the value and they hate speaking with them. So the cogs in the machine together working and having that kind of organizational synergy, that's what moves the needle at the end of the day. It's no one team.
Got it. So do we call them the sales team or do we call them the growth team? Because a lot of, SaaS, the B2B SaaS industry itself, likes to call it growth. So is it actually right to say that sales teams or these SDRs and AEs aligned together in a team is the growth team?
I think it's a better term to call them would be the revenue team.
Got it.
They of course come under the bracket of sales and sales development, and I think you could put that under a broader umbrella of sales. But the idea is that these guys are tasked directly with revenue.
Yep.
Right? It's a very big sort of revenue function. It's not really, they don't have other metrics which can, let's say, measure their success. It's only revenue at the end of the day, right?
Got it.
Pipeline generated, pipeline won.
Yep.
That's all it is, right? So I would say it's like probably a revenue team as opposed to a growth team. But look, whatever you call it, what they're doing is more important, right?
Exactly.
So if they're actually able to book meaningful meetings in the first place, followed by actually being able to see a lot of value from the solution and get that time to value as low as possible, that's when you're going to have a lot of high-paying customers who are super happy to work with you, and the word of mouth will spread for the company itself.
So this was a question that was posted by one of aspiring SDRs that we have. Do the people who call us from these Edtech companies like Byju's and White Hat Juniors actually SDRs?
No.
So what are we missing here? What's that knack that we're not getting at? So here, this is the most relatable thing, understand? Yeah. Every aspiring SDR would have gotten one call in their life.
No, 100%. Let's look at it this way. Virat Kohli plays cricket, right? I play cricket. To the untrained eye, we're doing the same thing. But to the trained eye, we know there's a difference. We know that obviously Virat Kohli is a lot better than I am at it. And as a result, he's going to be able to play the sport much better. if we look at it in a sales context as well, yes, the Byju's guys or the, let's call it Edtech guys, are trying to book a call with you to sell you on whatever course that they may think you need that day in order to help you hit their target, right? But that's the key nuance. You're just a means to an end for them to get to their target. They've not actually done a lot of research on you. And trust me, the edtech industry would be so much better off if they actually just had conversations with people as opposed to just jamming their courses down their throat. That's not the way sales works, right? And we can see that, right, with sort of the downfall of edtech and stuff like that. It's a brilliant industry, right? And education in India is a pre-sold concept. It should be, everything should be aligning and it should work beautifully. The problem is the way they sell it.
Yep.
They're not helping, they're selling. They're trying to use this dirty word called convincing, right? The second you try and convince, it's like, brother, you've seen those memes, right?
Yep.
Brother,
That's what it is, right? You're not actually helping anybody. They're not able to actually achieve any meaningful outcome as a result of doing your course,
Yep.
right? But when you look at a SaaS SDR or other industries, I'm sure as well, sales development reps for them, that's when you're going to see that they are reaching out to say, look, I'm not sure, hey, if we're a fit today, but I noticed that companies similar to yours usually face XYZ issue. Is this something you guys are facing today? The difference is we're trying to stimulate a conversation. We're not at all trying to sell a product. The second you become, hey, I'm trying to sell the product, you lose the game.
Got it.
You have to, approach it as this may be an issue you're facing. In case you are, still we may not be the best fit. Unsure is the best mentality to have, right? So say, look, in case you are, we still may not be the best fit. Why don't I talk to you a little bit about how we solved XYZ issue for somebody, and you can let me know if that sounds worthwhile. You have to put them in the driving seat, right? Everybody thinks, especially from EdTech, that it's about convincing, it's about controlling, it's about leading the call. No, it's about seeing what your prospects are doing. They're trying to make some level of progress, right? Whether it's with a specific job that they have in hand, or whether it's a specific, issue that they're facing in their company today. If we can help them from A to B, of course they're going to buy our solution, right? So that's the nuance shift between selling B2B SaaS as an SDR versus selling as a
Convincing,
as you rightly said, as a edtech professional.
Yeah, this edtech industry has a really good saying: if you can't convince them, confuse them.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So you just touched upon a very interesting point, which about education in India, and that's what I want to really drill down to, talking about this thing that right now you are doing, and very honorably I'm also one of the alumni there.
Of course.
Sama, how did it happen? You been with some great companies, great mentors, you've been in leadership roles, your LinkedIn itself says a lot about it.
Yeah.
How did this happen? What's that meticulous story that how did this happen? As a 30 under 30 outplay, you were bound to do something in the same realm of the SDRing.
Yeah.
How is this shift? Tell us the story. What's the story behind this?
Yeah, I would love for it to be like a super cool kind of story, but at the end of the day, the facts were I was working in a company called Slinto, and eventually that company got acquired by a company called Sixth Sense. And back when we started Sama, it was still Slinto where I was working, and I had kind of found a way to put my tasks sort of on autopilot, and everything was just running, and I needed to just make sure I'm checking in and make sure things are working. And I was pretty much easily able to hit my targets, right? So that's when I was like, okay, you know what? Side hustle mode on, right? Enable that. And let's see if I can do something else. So I'll be very frank with you. It's not some kind of altruistic reason that I started Sama. First of all, I did not start Sama. It was my co-founder's idea.
Interesting.
And he had actually run cohorts before. It's not like I was the first one to do it, right? But I think when the 30 under 30 SDRs in the country list came out, he started from the top of the list, called me, and at the time I was looking for a side hustle, and I was like, yeah, I could definitely teach, because fundamentally I believe that whatever put me on that list is not something that was unique to me. Anybody can do it. All they have to do is just sort of understand certain nuances, right? And then of course make educated guesses, take calculated bets and these kind of things, and eventually something will work out, right? So that's sort of how Sama began for me, and it was more of a side hustle idea that eventually became into something that, I know it's a bit cliche, but I really started falling in love with it. It's something that really impacted me at a deep level because I was seeing this as, it's not just a side hustle. We're actually impacting people. And I think by the time I taught my third cohort was when I was like, okay, this is something I've got to be on board for, right? And luckily my co-founder was somebody who actually wanted to take me on board and say, look, you have the right mentality, the right ideas. And don't get me wrong, he tried with other SDRs as well. The difference between me and them, at least as far as he was concerned, was the actual passion behind it, right? I genuinely believe that I can make anybody into a top rep. Genuinely, right? All they have to do is be coachable and have good communication. I can get them to whatever level they want to be after that, right? So with this fundamentals in mind, we decided to build Sama into what it is today, which is a company that the top SaaS companies love to hire from, and where reps can know they're going to be well taken care of. And I think that's something that gives me a lot of pride nowadays, because of course it was a side hustle for me, and of course it was something to, make an extra buck a month. But the real idea now is to scale it into something where there's a social angle to it, to say, hey, look, just because you don't come from SaaS doesn't mean you're, forever going to be rejected from this industry. You just have to show certain qualities. You just have to be willing to upskill. You have to be willing to understand the different nuances. And if you're willing to do this, you can build a big career in SaaS over a period of time. So we like to help them do that. And we want to make sure that, especially if they're coming in as freshers to a brand new industry, we need to give them as much support as possible, right? So we keep supporting them for an entire year, even after that, and possibly even after that as well, right? Our idea is for the first 2 jumps they're making, so SDR plus CS, SDR plus marketing, SDR plus account executive, we want to facilitate all of these moves.
So SDR is not the only cohort that you do?
No.
Interesting. No. So there are other nuances also that are something that you have installed.
Oh, absolutely, right? So look, our idea is not just to be like an SDR cohort. I think that will always be something which is very close to my heart.
Whatever you say next, kindly make it sell good.
I was going to, he cut me off. No, I'm joking. No, but of course, it's not the only cohort we run. Right? We want to make sure that while SDR is something that's very close to my heart and something that I'm always going to have a lot of passion for, at the end of the day, the companies that these students are placed in, they're able to give a lot of value to them, right? But it's not just SDRs that companies need. They need a lot of GTM talent. Because look at it this way. SaaS is built in India and sold by Americans.
Got it.
Imagine the impact to our GDP. Imagine the impact to our economy. Imagine the impact to the average Indian's earning potential if they're not just able to, kind of build the SaaS and then have somebody else sell it and make all the money. If India can build most of the SaaS for the world and sell it as well, that's where the real money is. That's where the real impact is, right? So my kind of mission is not to just run SDR cohorts. Like I said, that is something which is so near and dear to my heart. But at the end of the day, it would be to run a place where people can find talent for their SaaS companies, a place where early stage SaaS companies can come and these founders can, speak with us, and we can help them navigate on the $0 to $1 million journey and help them even beyond that, not only with talent, but also with roadmaps, also with playbooks, also with expertise, right? And connect them with other industry leaders as well that can actually really scale their business in a much faster way than it would organically scale. Right?
Got it. Some rapid fire questions regarding Sama, right? How many cohorts have you guys done?
We're running our 11th cohort. That'll be starting on July 18th, and depending on when this is out. July 18th, 2024. That's going to be our
How many students
cohort.
already placed?
All of them. But
damn,
I'm not sure if that's a useful answer because not everybody gets placed immediately. But our goal is everybody has to get placed eventually.
So that's a myth, is it true to say that it takes time to get placed?
It takes a lot of time. Certain market conditions are there as well. But at the end of the day, for an SDR to get placed, they just have to be the best version of themselves they can possibly be. If they're actually able to do that and exhibit all of the qualities that companies are looking for and really be able to generate pipe in not only a meaningful way, but an impactful way as well, that's when they can expect to get placed very quickly. So understanding that nuance, look, we're all different as people, right? Some of us have a steeper learning curve than others. Some of us are naturally gifted with this sort of thing. Some of us have to acquire this as a skill set, right? But we want to make sure that anybody who takes a chance on us and whose profiles we decide to work with as well, we have to get them to outcome. They're my customer. And if they are not happy, something I'm doing is wrong. So that means that when I'm speaking with them initially, before they even are deciding to get into the cohort, I have to be able to say with 100% certainty that if this guy puts in effort, or if he or she puts in effort, I can get them to that next level, right? And of course, effort is something that they have to put in from their side. It does take, of course, 2 hands to clap. But at the end of the day, from my side, I have to be able to say I've done everything in order to get this person into that job. For some folks, we've made, I think the highest number of intros we've made for one particular student was about 21 introductions.
Damn.
We stick with it until everything falls apart. But we believe that everything falling apart is not an option, right? So our idea is, look, you've taken a chance on us, we've taken a chance on you. We're not going to leave you hanging, right? The idea is, in case you didn't understand it in one cohort, come and attend it again. In case you did understand it, but you're not able to crack interviews, come speak with me. We'll do 100 mock interviews. We'll really practice an entire level of craft to the point where it's a no-brainer for you, to get into companies.
Got it. Interesting. Very interesting. So essentially, it's more of like, obviously, as you said, a clap does not happen with one hand, right? And it's more of a collaboration. And I guess it's like you have some interview processes before somebody gets into Sama.
Of course.
Right. Talking about, people who are currently in the market as SDRs, right? We have seen this wave of AI, right? Come into the market and, kind of not disrupted, I would say, but, kind of deviated the SDRs to, put a lot of, legwork on these AIs, right? So what's your take on that? Like, is this approach of, putting a lot of legwork and delegating a lot of work to these AI tools is actually good?
I think everybody has seen Game of Thrones, right? And they have this one kind of tagline, which is winter is coming.
Yep.
AI is coming, guys, whether we like it or not, right? Now, AI SDRs right now are not 100% ready to take over an SDR's job just yet, right? AI SDRs, you can look at them as something which can support an account executive directly in case you don't want to run a business development team for whatever reason. Or you can look at it as a very sophisticated email marketing platform, right? So these are the two kind of use cases. And I think if you keep this in mind, AI SDRs will be fine for you. But if you're looking for that human element, you're looking for something else, AI SDR is not going to do it for you. At the same time, AI is coming, right? And the job of AI is to take away some of the heavy lifting that we're doing today and make our jobs a lot easier. So right now, SDRs are spending about 39% of their time selling. I would actually argue that it's slightly less than that, right? Because there's so much research-oriented tasks for an SDR to really separate, okay, who's going to buy, who's not going to buy, right? Now, if AI can do the heavy lifting there and allow me as an SDR to spend more time selling, not only can I reach out to more accounts, but I can also spend more hours in my day selling. And you compound that over weeks, months, years, you actually have a lot more pipeline built than probably other SDRs who are doing this work manually. So AI is an important introduction. No, I don't think it's going to take an SDR's job just today. But I do think that if we don't evolve with it, we're going to go the way of the dinosaurs, right? So my advice to SDRs would be, look, upskill yourself on tools that allow you to spend more time selling. Allow yourself to integrate these tools into your workflows and your processes and things like that, because ultimately, if you don't, you will go the way of the dodo, right? It's not going to work for you otherwise, right? So tools like Clay, tools like Lavender, and there are so many more, right? Being built every single day. Gong, Humantic, right? All of these kind of tools, you can just look at them, and as an SDR, you can glean so much insights from there and just end up using that in your selling techniques, right? One thing I really loved using was using like technographics tools, right? That's a different way of selling entirely, but list building today for that kind of technographics use cases, it can be done, what used to take me a week can now be done in half an hour, right? So there's a lot of non-selling tasks, which I would say SDR should try and hand that over to AI as much as possible, right?
Got it.
And then focus on the selling tasks. and at the same time use the extra time that you have to kind of upskill your sales craft. Because now you don't have to up your research craft. AI is already going to be a better researcher than you are. So you might as well up your sales craft and then be better than the AI SDRs.
So the MREs are the ones who should really be concerned about.
Yeah.
You talked about something really interesting, which, we talk a lot about, is craft. Last quarter, one of the products really made a lot of noise, and you apparently didn't really, appreciate them. But I would really want to know, how was your experience when the first time you went to HYPERBOUND?
HYPERBOUND's awesome. HYPERBOUND's super cool. I think no matter how many cold calls I've made, and I've probably made a lot, no matter how many cold calls I've made, when I make that first cold call of the week, it's rusty. It's difficult. It's something that sounds like I'm doing it for the first time.
Is it psychological?
It's not just psychological. I think it's something which is to do with like muscle memory, right? And you have to give yourself that time to let muscle memory kind of kick in and help you out, right? Tools like HYPERBOUND allow me to get all my rusty calls out of the way first, and then I can make all the good calls with the actual people, right? So if I'm going to mess up, might as well I mess up with AI as opposed to somebody who would have actually benefited from hearing a great pitch, right? And it's not like, I don't believe there's a perfect cold call that you can make.
Interesting.
I think the better way of looking at it is, am I able to correctly ascertain what the issues are being faced in this company today, provide them with a meaningful solution, and allow them that space, which is the crucial part, allow them that space to feel like they can make the decision about it. Because at the end of the day, they're the ones who are going to be signing the deal, right? So if they have that space and they're like, look, I'm not being talked into something. I'm not being sold on something. Somebody's not trying to convince me. They're just saying, hey, this is an issue you might be facing. Consider us an option on your table. And that's it, right? No more than an option.
So basically, let's say, get your stroke, go for go to the turf of golf, get your stroke via HYPERBOUND, and then get on the pitch.
Yeah, absolutely, right? I think the bots are getting better and better, and they did this challenge called Beat the Bot. And they actually incorporated some background noise. And having made a lot of cold calls myself, when I heard that, I actually thought I was speaking to a real person, right?
Oh, really?
It is getting better and better every day, right? It's such a cool tool. The founders, Atul and Shri, are doing a great job with it. And it's something that we teach in Sama as well. So our goal is, by the time we finish the cold calling module, they should be able to beat the bot with the highest difficulty rate.
Nice.
And unless they're able to do that, either there's a problem with their effort or a problem with my teaching. And we kind of work with our students even at a higher level to make sure they're able to access these bots and stuff like that and really practice it and play around with it. And I can't wait till I get some custom bots designed for the program with like some really cool tools like that are India centric, right? Sell Whatfix, sell MongoDB, sell Lambda Test, sell Slack, right? Some of these kind of cool tools, I would love for that to be, integrated into HYPERBOUND. And of course they have those capabilities, but the use cases are just not only for cold calling. You can also do a lot in the way of discoveries, right? So for account executives, and nowadays SDRs are also doing a lot of discovery calls. So it's not just a cold calling kind of tool. I think that would be a disservice to call it that. But you can kind of get those initial jitters out with AI. And then when you make your actual, 50 dials per day, 100 dials, whatever it may be, that's when you can just focus on delivering top class, pitches. Yeah.
So interestingly, what you said is, it backs me with a conviction that, discovery calls. Yeah, that's something that has started very recently, that SDRs have been given that conviction that you start with the initial call as well. So that, I guess, initially you become an AE, right? But talking about, as you threw a very good, interesting part about the curriculum as well. Ryan, how important is it? Like, you've coached a lot of people and you've placed them, careers have been made. How important for you is the mentality, the approach of a SDR, or even, a person that you would want to work with? Let's see, for example, the community out there, most of them who are listening, what does it take to work with Ryan Aneja?
Oh, well, I don't think that it takes much to work with me. I think what I'm looking for with somebody that I want to be associated with is that sort of spirit of, look, I'm going to try things and it's not going to work out sometimes. I'm going to try things and it's going to blow up in my face sometimes. But being able to get back up on that horse and say, hey, you know what, I'm still going to try. That's a quality I really love. Because look, at the end of the day, whatever we're teaching our students, things are going to work for them and some things aren't going to work for them, right? Now it's up to them to continue trying and iterating and constantly A/B testing different things and approaches to make sure they're actually able to boil down what ultimately works for them at the end of the day. Once they're able to find that, that's when they can actually successfully overachieve on a target, right? But if they sort of give up too early and they're kind of that throw in the towel type of person, I think sales and SDRing is probably not for you, because there's a lot of rejection. In fact, there's way more rejection than there is acceptance, right? The amount of meetings you're going to book versus the amount of meetings that people will decline or not even get booked in the first place, it's not even close, right? But your job is to get those select few. Your job is not to sell to the many, right? So mentality plays a very, very big sort of factor in the success of an SDR. And I think in general, like if you're doing anything worthwhile, it's worth really testing out all the different ways it can be done, right? And until you've exhausted that final way, then there's still something left undone. There's still something left untried, right? So I like people who try, to be honest. I think if I were to boil it down in a very simple language, somebody who's willing to try and then fail and then try again 100 times, right? Over and over. That's the guy who I like to work with, because those are the ones who are actually going to achieve big metrics. Yeah.
Something that, still just popped out 1 second ago in my mind is, what's your favorite movie in terms of when you look at sales? Like we watch Hustlers, Glengarry Ross, right? So many movies. What's your favorite knack for that?
I'll be honest with you, this is a question that I would love to answer, and I'm sure Wolf of Wall Street and stuff like that would come to mind. But to be very frank with you, I don't actually watch that many movies, so I'm probably the wrong person to ask. I'm not a big movie buff. I'm more of like a video game kind of guy. I like to be
that's
involved.
A coping mechanism then?
I wouldn't say it's like a coping mechanism. It's something that I can use to take my time, or something that I can use to, let's say, take my mind off other things. And I like to, while I'm playing video games, either listen to a podcast or also maybe listen to music or whatever it may be, and just sort of recharge. Because look, at the end of the day, I like to do everything at 100% energy. And in order for me to be able to do that, it has to be a switch that goes on and off, right? This is when it switches off, right? I don't really find a lot of use in movies. It's just like 1 hour and somebody tells you a story and then it's all done. But in a video game, you can actually save your progress and continue building on. So I guess that's the more appeal to me. But in terms of a sales movie that I really like, I think Wolf of Wall Street would be a cool one. And yeah, I probably have not watched many more.
Got it. Once, the SDRs get into the market, there's this myth, that it takes a lot of time. The ramp time is disastrous for, certain SDRs.
Yeah.
What's going on? Like why people, once they've done so well, in their initial, days as SDRs, once they switch companies, even they do really bad in the ramp time. And as for them, they're working 15 hours instead of getting paid at 8 hours. What are they lacking? Is it CRM, not understanding the CRM, or is it, lack of product understanding? What are these SDRs missing out there that, is not being integrated towards because then they start talking about mental health. One of your own colleagues is a really big ambassador about, mental health, Deb, right?
Yeah.
So what's your own take? What's your take on that?
Might be a bit of a hot take here, but I think most SDR playbooks suck.
Sorry?
Most SDR playbooks that are existing in the market today, they suck.
Okay.
Now, they don't really set SDRs up for success. They're basically just to tick off boxes. Hey, we've wrapped this guy up. He's done 3 months of this training. And if you look at actually what he's achieved in 3 months, probably nothing, right? So most SDR playbooks aren't really designed to give you that strong footing where you can actually then go ahead and build from a strong foundation. I think companies that I like to work with and that I like my reps to get placed in, or my students rather, to get placed in, would be companies that really value training, right? If there's sort of an issue, it has to be solved by either skill or will. If it's a will issue, it's a problem with the SDR, and that's something that he or she needs to sort out for themselves. But if it is a skill issue, the only answer to that is consistent upskilling, right? As an SDR, look, since I was an SDR, so many things have changed, right? But we have to keep adapting with the market, right? If I tried to do the same things that I was doing when I was an SDR, I may or may not be successful today. But by constantly adapting and moving with the market and being, like Bruce Lee says it well, like be like water, right? Water flows, takes the shape of whatever, it's poured into. We have to also move and adapt that way as well, right? Because the second we're like, okay, you know what, this works for me, I'm going to continue doing this. No, what helped you hit last month's quota is not going to help you hit next month's quota. You're done. If you think that's going to happen, it's not going to happen, right? And time catches up with you rather quickly in the SDR world, right? So most SDR playbooks, coming back to that, really suck. And they need to be designed more around an enablement and a consistent upskilling of their reps to actually look at them as not just, you're going to be an SDR for us and do this and book pipeline. No, your SDRs today are your account executives tomorrow, or your VP sales of, even after. The idea over here that, look, we're just going to have you as an SDR, it's fundamentally flawed, right? Now, I've seen a lot of success with various companies, in fact, multiple examples, who have hired their account executives directly from the pool of their current SDRs. In-house, right? And they see so much more success as opposed to hiring from outside. Now, maybe it's a culture thing, maybe it's a training thing, but that SDR's played around with the product. He knows what customers are looking for. He or she has also really spoken to a lot of the market, in their year or year and a half as an SDR. It's almost criminal to not set them up for, hey, you get your next step as an account executive or CSM, whatever it may be, right? So I think company playbooks need to change a lot. And I think the way we look at SDR enablement can't be like, hey, for 3 months, we're going to enable you, then you're done with your ramp period. It's got to be a consistent approach. And the second you remove that sort of consistent approach element from it, you're just setting your team up for failure. And it's the fault of management in that case.
Damn.
It's not up to your SDRs to make sure they're consistently upskilling. They're going to do that anyway. But it's your job to make sure your team is constantly enabled to be able to hit targets. Not of this week or this month. That they have to figure out. But in 1 quarter time. In next month's time. That's the idea.
So here's a real-time example and a real-time scenario that I want you to actually break down. Like, one of my colleagues is actually working in a really good company.
Yeah.
Now, hear me out, right? He's the youngest there.
Yeah.
And the gap between his colleagues and him is massive, probably 10 years, right? And you talked about manager and the aspects. The manager recently resigned.
Wow.
Now, if you were that guy, what's the mindset? Am I being there? Am I leaving? Because a lot of SDRs look up for mentorship. And that's one of the points that you highlight a lot, that when the student appears, the teacher comes, right? What do you think of this scenario? How would you have navigated it? And what's the importance of, mentors out there? We've got good mentors. From my standpoint, I see Saad as a very good mentor, Sandeep Shekhar as a very good mentor, even you as well, for that matter, for me. If this was a hypothetical scenario for you, what's your roadmap? What's your plan of action here?
When I join a company, it's not to do with who's my boss at the time, although that is of course a big sort of decision as well. But it's, can I really sort of fall in love with the market essentially that they're selling to? Do I really understand the value of the product, right? And just building that conviction inside, whatever you're doing, right? So I think for me, it would be a very different scenario, and this has actually happened to me in the past as well, where I had a boss who I really, really liked. His name was Shashank, and I really, really respected him, really liked him. And when he ended up leaving, instead of me saying, oh, I'm going to leave with him, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that, my idea was, hey, I'm going to take care of the team that he set up. So I'm going to step up over here. I'm going to take a lot more responsibility. And he taught me a lot about people management, and that's something that I still implement today. And it's something I'm very grateful to him for as well. But it's like, look, the team is going to exist before you and after you, right? The idea over here is to just carry on with the growth and the project, let's say, that other people ahead of you were building, and just add your one brick on top of that, right? Continue building that as a successful team, right? So if you're a part of a team that is consistently hitting quota, if you're a part of a team that is super, highly productive, let's say, right? When you take over that team, or if you want to, rather, or when you're planning on, becoming a manager or whatever it may be, that's something you would have to consider as well, right? So it's like, look, I want to leave this place in a better place than I found it. I want to leave this team in a better place than I found it. But I also understand that the people who built it before me, they've left it in a good place for me. So now it's my job to build one step up. And then somebody else is going to come after me and build one step up, right? But I think you shouldn't look at it as, look, if my boss left, I'm going to leave. If my boss left, should I even think about leaving, this, that, and the other? It's an opportunity, right? It's an opportunity for you to say, hey, look, I'm one of the seniors in this team. Doesn't matter that I'm one of the younger guys, right? I was a manager by 22, right? And all of the people who are in my team are actually a lot older than me, right? And I have to give them a lot of respect for the fact that they genuinely allowed me to manage the team, because your team members can be quite difficult for you at that time as well. But look, it's about really stepping up and saying, look, I'm going to be responsible for the ongoing success of this team. I don't know about in the future, 10 years from now, what that's going to look like. But today, if my boss is leaving, this team is not going to fall apart. I'm going to be the one to put the pieces together and really, hold it all together. Yeah.
Ryan, so talking about Sama, right? Recently, we've seen a lot of other sales schools coming up as well. One of the bright side about, talking about Hive School, we have School of SDR, and more importantly, somebody who's recently doing really good is Zohot, right? What are your takes on, that? And like, obviously, as an aspiring SDR, somebody asked me when they reached out to me, why Sama? So what's your message to that for folks?
Yeah. See, when it comes to normal markets, we have competition.
Got it.
Right. But when it comes to this space, which is like the SDR training space, I believe that I don't have like competition. I believe I have co-builders, right? So other people are building up their companies and they're serving the same market I am, which is great. I can't serve everybody, right? I'm not for everybody, right? So the idea would be that, look, I'm not looking at this as it's a market share drive. It's something that we created the space, right? We're happy to say that, but we're equally happy to have another whole slew of companies coming in, that are able to upskill and, help a lot of folks out of whatever industries they may be in and help them into a more promising career of B2B SaaS, right? So by that logic, I don't really look at it as competitors. I think from my perspective, if you're building something and you have one eye on what somebody else is doing, you're never going to build whatever you're building right. So from my perspective, it's always been, look, this is Elon Musk's kind of take as well, which is if somebody can build a better EV than Tesla, I deserve to be beaten out of the market. If somebody else can build a better SDR school than me, I will get beaten out of the market, right? Well, my job right now today is not to focus on whatever, any other company is doing. My job is to say, hey, look, this is the value that I know I'm going to provide to students. I'm going to always work on adding more value and bringing time to value down, right? So these are my two metrics. Now, in the past, I think we've, learned a lot from, previous cohorts as well. But our job now is to make our cohort accessible. Our job now is to make sure as many people who are capable of breaking into B2B SaaS and genuinely have that intent, we're there. Because we believe when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And whether it's going to be me or one of what you call my competitors, what I call my co-builders, more power to them. More power to them, right? And I genuinely don't have sort of an ill will to any of the other companies or anything like that. I want them to deliver as much value as possible to these students and to these first-time SDRs, because that keeps me on my toes. And that makes sure that I'm delivering the top-class value that I possibly can. And of course, we're going to be, owing a lot to the industry as well, since we've sort of created the space. And we want to make sure that we're always setting the standard in terms of the benchmark for quality, the benchmark for mentors, the benchmark for curriculum, benchmark for placements, right? And we want to consistently push those boundaries. And having somebody who's, having a similar type of company as us, that just keeps you on your toes, and that makes sure that you're always striving for that next step. So I wish them all the best. I would love to, collaborate and work with anybody. I'm very, very happy to do that. But at the end of the day, I believe that my value prop is always going to be the strongest, because I'm constantly going to iterate on it.
So how can people out there who think they have that, will and the mentality to, work with Sama, how can they reach out to you guys?
I'm very accessible. My co-founder says I'm a little too accessible as well. My calendar link is directly on the website. People who click the book a call link on the SDR page, they can also, have a half an hour session one-on-one with me. And I like taking these calls, right? So many people are like, you're the founder, why are you taking calls? I'm like, have you never heard of founder-led sales? It's like, it's so beautiful for me to say, look, I'm not only going to be able to teach you the cohort, but I'm going to be the one who's actually going to be speaking with you and clearing all of your doubts and all of these kind of things, versus having somebody else do it. Now, eventually, as we scale, we'll probably have to have, somebody else come in and do it. But I like my sales reps to be focused on more of the outbound kind of thing. And I like to focus on anybody who's already coming to me. I'd be very, very happy to be there. Like I said earlier, right? Student is ready, teacher appears. after-peer.
A very aggressive thing that the market is currently talking. Obviously, we see our market on LinkedIn, right?
Yeah.
Established SDRs want to scale. Now there are these sales creators. They have their cheat sheets by commenting down below. You said the information overload is there.
Yeah.
What do you think about, can somebody who's an established SDR apply to SAMA as well?
Yeah, of course. No, we definitely. So 80% of my cohorts is going to be, let's say, non-SaaS folks. 10% of my cohort is going to be fresh graduates from college, usually engineering college, interestingly. And the other 10% are B2B SaaS folks already who are just maybe looking to learn some new tools, brush up their skill set a little bit, and of course, network with the broader community as well.
What? You said engineering folks, engineering graduates.
Yeah.
So what stories do they have from doing engineering for 4 years to moving to SaaS? What's the story behind that?
Yeah.
What do they tell you?
They just fundamentally don't love it. It's as simple as that, right? They just fundamentally don't love it. And somewhere along the line, to make a little bit of money, they would have taken an odd sales job here or there. And they realize, hey, I enjoy doing this, right? Maybe they're good at it, maybe they're not, right? But when they come in and say, like, look, I'm an engineer, I don't have a SaaS background, I don't have like a business background, whatever it may be, it's like, who asked you for that? It's not required, right? The idea would be that, look, you're willing to put in the time to learn a new skill and actually enter a very new industry. So in fact, I would say probably about 40% of the people we've placed so far come from a non-sort of business background, right? It's like a very sort of engineering dominant sort of field, right? We've had lawyers, we've had boxers, a lot of different professions over there. But from our side, it's like they came into it because they genuinely had a love for sales at some level. And their kind of expression of that was, look, I want to upskill and be the best salesperson I possibly can be. And that's where we kind of come in, right? So we're like, look, we can help you to upskill. We can help you with companies and introductions and all of these kind of things and help you really navigate your career path and where it's going to look from now. So yeah, engineers can get in, anybody can get in. It's something which is not industry agnostic or industry specific. It's like, look, if you have a drive and you have a passion for sales, like I do, come on in, meet like-minded folks, right? Build something with them, grow with them, and just really continue upskilling and being on that journey with them as well.
You're a very big ambassador of, being out, getting yourself out there, be visible, be, out there on LinkedIn. Yeah. How much value have you gained out of LinkedIn? And what's your message towards, your current SDRs who are in the market that, what's your biggest leverage that you've done on LinkedIn? As something I remember, that's how you got Tito, right?
Yeah. No, of course. I think at the end of the day, you want to curate your newsfeed to a point when it's more interesting to you to scroll through LinkedIn than it is to scroll through Instagram. Mm-hmm. And once you curate it to that point when you're constantly sort of able to upskill and just following all of the right people and really understanding that, look, there's a lot of information. It's not all created equally. Some information is going to be useful to you. Yeah. And that's something, of course, you can add to your own style and build your own style of selling. But not all information needs to be treated as God's word and truth, right?
Got it.
It's something which is going to be, you have to take it with a spoon of salt, right? This is going to be something which may work for you or may not. Your mileage may vary, right? I think there's a lot of bad raps that a lot of these sales gurus get, and they're just posting what works for them. They didn't mean for you to take it as, hey,
how do you get to know that this is a sales guru?
If they're constantly sort of providing a lot of different advice out there, by default, they're going to be, I don't like the term sales guru, but let's say thought leader. And I'm happy for them to sort of do that, right? But at the end of the day, somebody can very easily read that and become very confused because they may implement whatever was said for a different industry or a different type of persona or whatever it may be, right? The same way you sell to finance is not the same way you can sell to sales guys, right? There's nuance to it. The things they care about are different, right? So as a result, we have to kind of appeal to those things, right? So take every information you're getting on LinkedIn with a big grain of salt, even the stuff that I'm posting, however rare that may be. But no, take everything on LinkedIn with a grain of salt, right? There's a lot of knowledge out there. There's a lot of fluff out there as well. And I believe that my LinkedIn sort of cuts through all of the noise. I follow people who I genuinely look up to and have a lot of respect for. And I just learn so much from their content, right? Because look, I'm learning every day. And it's a journey that I've been on for the last 4, 5, 6 years. And I don't think it's going to end anytime soon. And I think I'm only just getting started with the whole learning journey. So make your LinkedIn more curated than your Instagram feed. Stop following all of those models and cars and these kind of things and beach holidays or whatever it may be. and start following things which are actually going to make you better in your career. And let's say for every 1 hour you spend on Instagram, try and spend 1 hour on LinkedIn. If you're not able to do that with ease, your LinkedIn newsfeed is not curated enough, right? So what I do with students is I give them a list of 50 sales leaders they should follow that are super curated by me, as well as this is content that has really made a difference in my selling journey. And you start with this 50, and then you see other people engaging with their content. You go and visit their profiles. Maybe they're also posting something, trying to become a thought leader themselves. Continue following everybody, right? And see what works out for you. Some things may resonate with you and you can add that to your style. Some things you may say, hey, you know what? Maybe this is a little bit pushing the boat out too far for me, or maybe this is too mild for me, whatever it is. But either way, whether you're adding it to your style or saying no, your style is still getting enhanced.
Got it. So I personally really like this, one of the thought leaders out there. You made a very good intro about him, was Saad. And he's always talked about something called signal-based selling. And what is signal-based selling, and how are you practicing it on a daily-to-day basis?
Yeah. I'm not sure how I'm practicing on a daily-to-daily basis. I think...
How can SDRs?
Yeah. So how can an SDR basically practice signal-based selling, right? So you have to first identify where your customers are actually hanging out. Are they actually aware of what you guys do and the issues that you guys solve, for the broader industry today? And I think sort of Saad has really cemented himself, and of course Aligned as well, as one of those companies that do a lot of signal-based selling. Even before Aligned, we actually had Saad on our Sama podcast, and he came in and did a masterclass with our students. And he was just sharing his screen and just talking about so much cool stuff about, sort of all the signals that he was able to kind of generate. And this buying signal told him this, and this buying signal told him that. And as a result, this is the approach he took. And it was super interesting to see the way he thinks, because look, to you and me, we can get the same signals, right? But at the end of the day, it's what are you going to do with that information? What kind of workflows are you going to build around that? How are you going to scale this in a big way, right? So I think seeing the way he sort of built up his sales team and really understands the importance of signal-based selling, it's been phenomenal to watch. And I think I really learned a lot from the podcast he did with us. In fact, I even threw away our question sheet, and I was just look, I'm doing a disservice if I'm just asking questions to you. Share your screen, show us something really cool, and take us on a journey with you, right? And he was more than kind enough to do that. But he's somebody I definitely look up to and respect a lot. He's somebody who is now working with one of my former reps, which is Deb. And I couldn't be happier for the pair of them. I think that's a real nice match made in heaven. And I think that they're going to go on and achieve great things. I think I've heard nothing but real positive stuff about Aligned as well. So I haven't got a bad word to say about them. I think they're both excellent. And
for the last 1 month, you've been posting anything on LinkedIn, Ryan. And what I could really make out, you've also taught us as well as students, is the concept of introducing this new skill in your arsenal, but at a very heavy cost. That is video selling, right? So what's your take on that, and why are you so adamant about that SDR should actually be out there and be using video selling more than cold calls and cold emails?
Yeah, I've seen this LinkedIn follow up a lot, and it's hey Ryan, just putting a face to the name. Hey, we're just connecting or whatever it is. And it's instead of doing that, why not shoot something? Why not actually speak with me and make a cool video for me? The problem is with video selling is most people won't do it, but that's also the benefit of it, right? So you have that standout value immediately, right? And reps that get good at it, who can tell where their top potential would lie, right? I think that video selling is something which is it's very uncomfortable. It's something I guess people are very nervous and I don't want to be on camera and all these kind of things. But if they're able to shed that, and they're genuinely sort of able to get out of themselves, right, for lack of a better word, and just say, look, I may look stupid, I may look dumb, whatever it is, I'm going to start posting videos, right? I remember when sort of the vidyard craze took over back when I was an SDR, and it's of course since died down a lot, but I think it's still a very useful tool to book meetings with. But it's look, most SDRs are sending out emails, they're sending out LinkedIn messages, and they're making phone calls, right? Maybe some of them are doing a bit of community selling here and there. You can't be poorer for having another weapon in your arsenal, right? And I believe that video selling could be that. So for me, because I'm a bit of an idiot, and I've told this story a couple of times in the past, I was genuinely just working at my desk, and I have my guitar right next to the desk. And I was like, how can I get paid, during work hours for playing guitar? I was like, okay, wait, why not integrate the two, right? I'm by no means a singer. I'm by no means a good guitarist either, right? Not even close. Terrible at both. But my idea was, look, I want people to laugh at me. I wanted to post this and just do a really bad sort of rendition of a song, look a bit crazy, have like a tie hanging off of my head, like a necktie, hang off my head, another 13 ties around my neck. And it was just like quite a sight to behold. So if somebody saw that initial like thumbnail of my video, they're gonna click. Yeah, they're gonna be like, what the hell's this guy on, right? And then when they click, it's just me kind of value propping a song that I sang very poorly. But people resonated with it and people really liked it a lot, right? And like even now, I still, contact some of the prospects, of course, that I did book, back in the day as well. And they were like, till date, nobody's ever reached out to me with song. Till date, nobody's ever reached out to me with this, with that. And it's like, look, the question you have to ask yourself as a rep is, how crazy do you want to get, right? What are you willing to do to hit your target, right? For me, my answer is anything. I will go to that guy's house if I have to. I'm going to do a silly dance. And by the way, again, can't dance, can't sing. Not useful for very many things. But the idea over here would be, look, how are you putting yourself out there today and actually going against the grain of what is conventional, right? We receive thousands of emails every day, right? If I open my email inbox for you, there's like 30,000 unread emails there. But that one email which I'm going to watch is going to be some guy who's doing some really dumb thing to get my attention, and it works, right? It's not just a gimmick. It's something that, of course, you have to follow it up with a nice value prop, and it can't be the only way that you sell, but it should definitely be added as like another string to your bow or another weapon to your arsenal, because you surely cannot be poorer for having another way of reaching out to your prospects and getting their attention. It's becoming ever more difficult to sort of get a prospect's attention. And I think that the amount of video sellers has gone down, which is really sad for me to see, which is why one of our kind of initiatives for cohort 11 is we have somebody who I rank very personally as a top video seller. He's going to be coming in and showing us the ropes. And I think that's going to be exciting for all of the students as well.
Got it. Last question, Ryan. Candid, unfiltered, okay?
All right. I'll try not to swear.
Yeah, okay.
Let's go.
Ryan, one message that you want to give to the Sama community, Sama family, and the SaaS world that, and your existing SDRs out there.
Yeah, of course. We're pushing the values of what we can possibly achieve and the actual value that we can give to our students and to the industry in general. We're constantly pushing those barriers every single day. In addition to that, we want to offer a lot more to the SDR community at large. We want to make sure that we're going to be known for a lot of big things and really be able to help get a lot of SDRs' names out there as well, help them to start building their brands as well. Whether they're already established or up and coming, we want to help them on that journey. We're working with a lot of different companies as well, and very, very, very exciting companies, sort of the Whatfixes, the MongoDBs, the Salesforce, right? 2 of my reps just went to Salesforce as well. And just seeing that there's no sort of ceiling for how far they can get is very, very exciting for me. Now, even better than that, we're sort of seeing the market is coming back and companies are hiring more than ever before. From us directly, right? And the reason they want us is because we've been equated with a lot of quality in the past as well. And they know that our reps are reps that really deliver at a high, very, very high level, right? So anybody who's out there thinking that, look, I want to work in a company that's going to take good care of me. I want to work in a place where I'm going to be mentored and coached and able to actually build myself as the best version of, whatever I can be as a sales rep or as a person. We definitely have those sort of companies that we're working with, and all you have to do is sort of hit us up, reach out to us, and we're happy to make introductions whether or not you're a part of our Sama community. We're helping the SDR space become a more inclusive space, and we want people to feel like, look, SaaS companies may not actively be taking your interviews, but if you're able to sort of understand the nuances behind the way that SaaS is sold versus the way anything else is sold, you have a very good chance of getting into the industry. So the chances are there, the opportunities are there, we are there, and a great community of a lot of SDRs are there to also help you out. And the world is poorer for not having you guys as SDRs as well. So come hit us up, hit anybody up, and try and become an SDR, because it's honestly the best roller coaster ride you'll ever get on.
You just have to ask. That's it. I hope this should clear a lot of things about, the unfiltered side of SDRing with, Ryan. And you might have gotten a brief idea about what the SDR space is, what is the SaaS market, and what's he really doing in the market itself. So thanks, Ryan. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me. I'm delighted.
And cut.
That was fun.